Last Epoch Season 2 Tombs of the Erased is set to come out on April 2nd, and to kick off the next month of hype, EHG released a new trailer giving us a glimpse into some of the new features coming to the game. And let me tell you, it is looking damn good. First off, I have to give it to their art team. The visuals in this trailer are amazing. The new enemies, the locations, the lighting, the style of the graphics, mwah! Chef's kiss, very nice. If you haven't played Last Epoch in a while, you'll notice that some of the spells, enemies, and item models that you were used to have been updated. I love it, and I'm sure everyone can agree it was definitely needed. The first feature they confirmed was the third faction coming to the game, the Woven. And if I pause on some of these ranks you'll be earning, it seems like the Woven faction is going to be based around a new feature called Woven Echoes, which I'll get to in a second. But you'll also notice something called the Weaver Tree, which I'm assuming is this thing in the background here. The visual doesn't give much away, but going off the description they gave us in previous announcements, this is the tree that'll give you nodes to alter your endgame monolith experience in some way. I'm assuming maybe to target farm or grind monolith echoes in a way that may fit your build or playstyle. Speaking of echoes, those woven echoes I mentioned earlier, they seem to be items, or basically echoes that you pick up as loot, or maybe purchase from the Weaver faction representative, and you can place them in this new massive monolith grid. This opens up new pathways to different rewards that you may want to target farm. From the description of this woven echo specifically, it seems like these echoes have different objectives than the normal echoes, so it could be just nice to use them if you get tired of the same old objectives that we've had in the past and are up to the challenge. Also on this new monolith grid, you can see the new Cemeteries of the Erased echoes, which seem to be completely new maps with unique enemies and bosses. And these areas look gorgeous. I mean, look at the detail and the intricate patterns on the floor. But even the normal echoes are getting some love with the addition of tombs, which are these procedurally generated side zones that can pop up in any normal monolith. You can choose to go inside these side areas and take on what seem to be new enemies and mini bosses for unique rewards. I'm assuming that these tombs and cemeteries will be giving you Weaver-specific rewards, similar to how Exiled Mages and the Nemesis feature do that today. Now, I don't know if these are going to pop up in normal echoes or at the end of each monolith, but these new bosses look amazing. For this new bug-looking guy, the design is just gorgeously hideous and I love it. The two-headed dragon is pretty sick too. More importantly, it looks like they have their own mechanics. Very curious to see how these bosses will be implemented, and if they're replacing old bosses, I wonder which old boss gets kicked out. I hope it's Lagone. I loathe Lagone and his ludicrously long limbs. One of the things I'm personally most excited for, the Sentinel Rework, is coming. Now, those of you following along with all the LE news may have heard that there were more details on this rework teased in dev interviews over the past couple months, but I don't want to speculate too much on those teasers, so I'll just stick to what we know from the official announcements and from what we can figure out from this trailer. Which isn't too much, but you are immediately met with something huge for the Sentinel. You may have missed it, it went by so fast, but this guy, I'm pretty sure he's using a two-handed mace and a shield. Two-handed weapons and a shield. I wonder how this will work with damage scaling for skills. In the footage here, it looks like the Forge Guard is the only one using a two-handed weapon and shield, so maybe it is something specific to the Forge Guard tree. On top of that, it looks like some of the skills are getting visual reworks. The first one here looks like the Forge Strike skill, the main skill given by the Forge Guard Mastery. These purple orbs are part of the Devouring Orb skills, and they look amazing. This Void Knight is using a two-handed poleaxe erasing strike, and it causes the orbs to shoot off in different directions. And then in this final shot, we see some new effects coming out of the Paladin's Judgment Slam. Moving on from the Sentinel, the Rogue is getting a new skill too, Heartseeker. This one looks like a magic projectile that'll seek out multiple enemies and deal damage on contact. We are getting some new enemies in the form of champion enemies, and these are exactly what I expected, pretty much. More challenging enemies that give better rewards. I wonder how you're going to encounter them though, like do they roam around maps? Do they have predetermined boss rooms? More importantly, I'm not sure if EHG meant this to be something of importance in their trailer, but why does this room have 4 exiled mage prisons? Are these individual encounters that have all spawned on a random map, or were those placed here on purpose? I'm trying to think of why these would be here, like if this was a location in the game that already exists, and I can't think of anything. Maybe someone watching can tell me, but just for fun, I'm gonna think that this is a brand new exiled mage dungeon. Called it here, folks, purely based on this 2-second clip. I'm probably wrong, but can you imagine if I was right? I would love more dungeons. I think Last Epoch dungeons are completely underrated. Champion enemy affixes are next. I'm assuming these are affixes that can only be found on items dropped by champion enemies, similar to the exiled mage affixes. These look like sealed affixes since they are a different yellow color, and you can tell on this item that there are 4 normal affixes plus the champion enemy affix. I wonder if the champion enemy affix will be craftable at all. Either way, it seems like there'll be a ton of them. Woven offerings are a way that you can reforge duplicate legendary items and reroll stats. I would assume that this is rerolling stats within their tiers to refine legendary items, since up until this point you couldn't really craft any legendary or set item, so I'm guessing that you sacrifice the duplicate to refine the legendary that you keep. Endgame crafting materials are coming to the game: the Rune of Weaving, the Rune of Havoc, and the Rune of Redemption. Starting with the Rune of Weaving, you can now craft Weaver's Will items and transform the remaining Weaver's Will into the legendary affixes. If you don't remember, Weaver's Will items are those legendary blank slate items that come with a certain amount of Weaver's Will. Having that item equipped will gain it experience using that Weaver's Will to upgrade over time. Every upgrade will put a random affix on that item, essentially making you an RNG unique item. It's actually a pretty cool system and can get you some really powerful items, but it is very inconvenient to use those items in the endgame, since you have to equip them to upgrade and get your new affixes. You end up spending a lot of time using an item that is worse than what you already had equipped, in hopes that in an hour or so of grinding, you have an item that is better than what you already had equipped. This crafting material will just lessen that grind. The Rune of Havoc shuffles the tiers of non-sealed affixes on an exalted item with 4 non-sealed affixes. Exalted items are those purple-colored endgame treasures that have 1 tier 7 exalted affix and 3 normal affixes that can only go up to tier 5 through crafting. This rune will shuffle the tiers of those affixes, meaning that the tier 7 affix, the absolute best of the best, can end up on any of the affixes on the item. So basically, if you have an exalted item that has a base you really like and an affix that you need, you can use these runes to try and get that specific affix to be the new tier 7, and now you have the base type and the tier 7 affix that you want. I like that. I wonder how rare these runes are going to be though. I'm assuming it'll be pretty rare, or it'll make exalt drops much less interesting to find. Finally, the Rune of Redemption. Kinda similar to the Rune of Havoc, using the Rune of Redemption will reroll the tier 7 affix on an exalted item into a completely different affix, but still maintain that tier. Next, we have new items and uniques coming, like lots of them. Something called cocoon items, which seem like they're base items that will generate stats once you try to equip them. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that maybe the items will generate random stats, but maybe be a bit more class specific. Like maybe if you equip a staff as a sentinel, the staff will have a higher chance to give a physical damage affix or strength or vitality affix or something like that. It looks like we are getting more uniques, which is always fun. One that I found interesting on the screen was the Pearls of the Swine unique that augments your bone curse to also inflict a warlock curse on the enemy. What's interesting is that this version of the unique inflicts acid skin, and this one inflicts penance, so same unique, different use. Fun. Also, this new Weaver's Will one-handed mace that has a chance to inflict spiders on hit. Inflict spiders? What is spiders and how does one inflict spiders on another? I'm not entirely sure. One change that I'm kind of happy for, you can now respec your mastery. A part of me likes this out of convenience, but another part of me is pretty bummed that the mastery decision doesn't have too much weight to it anymore. But I get it, it's not exactly casual friendly to make a decision at 18 that you have to live with for the rest of your character's life, like buying your first pack of cigarettes. The Forge of Shattering. Looks like set items will end up being more useful now that you can take them all out of your stash tab and crush them into a million pieces to use in future crafting projects. Now the one thing that interests me about this Forge of Shattering is that you have a set amount of uses, 2 uses per encounter, which means that you encounter this forge somewhere in your journeys. Is this in a random monolith, at the end of a new dungeon perhaps? Maybe at the end of an arena run, since I think this map set is used in the monolith and arenas? I could be wrong about that, but either way, it's not something that you have free access to. You'll have to earn the right to destroy all those pesky set items taking up space in your stash. We are getting some new inventory tabs to separate our items, keys, and our woven echoes. I think that this is much needed. Thank you for this. Dungeon key charms, which creates a portal directly to the boss, which is kind of cool, I guess. I mean, this is the ultimate quality of life update here. No longer will you have to rerun dungeons to get to the mechanic at the end. All you have to do is kill the boss and you're good to go. I wonder how rare these will be, or if it'll basically make the dungeons outdated. Hey, we're getting WASD in Last Epoch. This will be interesting. I hope it's good. Path of Exile 2 has some pretty good WASD, but I've recently played a demo of Dragonkin the Banished and it just wasn't as smooth. But still, I know a lot of people love WASD and will not play without it. And the last thing, which may not affect you because you may have never reached him, Abberoth is Last Epoch's pinnacle boss that takes an absolute fuck ton of grinding and patience to reach, but it is an amazing fight once you get there. Trust me, I've done it one whole time. Anyway, he's getting some balance changes and an Uber version, which I think is great for the health of the game, but won't affect too many people just yet. And that's it. The last little bit of the trailer teases what I personally think is a new Weaver related boss, but more importantly, I just think it's a really cool end of the trailer. Gave me the goosies. So after going over all these changes, I turn the mic over to you. What do you think of all that's coming in Season 2? Enough to get you hyped to play Last Epoch again? And the biggest question that I'm sure is on everybody's mind, do you think that it's enough to make up for the 9-month wait? For me, I'm definitely hyped. I think their focus on the endgame and all of these additions to crafting and the echoes will go a long way in making that grind to Abberoth feel a little less repetitive and tedious. My favorite update though has to be this Sentinel Rework, but for now, I'm happy for what's coming. It's definitely a huge season-sized patch, so they did not disappoint with the amount of content. Hopefully we don't have to wait 9 months for the next one. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe for more Last Epoch content like this. I hope you enjoy your adventure into the Weaver's tombs and cemeteries, and I can't wait to see what we talk about next.